Alright, let's do this. Let's discuss some DayZ standalone. I'm finally making this video because it's almost impossible to ignore at this point. What the hell is going on with DayZ at the moment? You have content creators making slam content. Almost nobody's watching the game in the evenings on Twitch. I'm even the top DayZ streamer in the morning. I know, shocker, right? What the hell is going on with that? The player base is roughly 4,000 players every single day. And with these recent status reports, it doesn't really seem like 0.62 is going to be here anytime soon. I have to admit, it's a rough time to be a DayZ fan, or a survival MMO fan in general. Now, I've purposely tried to stay out of this discussion because I'm a big DayZ player. I play DayZ nearly every single day, even with PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds and Escape from Tarkov out. I'm still drawn back to DayZ because it's my favorite video game out there right now, still with all these problems. And of course, I've seen a lot of content that's been created by a lot of other DayZ content creators discussing the problems with DayZ. And what I find lacks in mostly every single one of these videos is explaining exactly what the problem with DayZ is right now from the players who actually play the game on a regular basis and understand what is currently driving people away. So let's get started. The first core problem is with the lag bubbles. These happen periodically throughout the world in Chernarus. We currently don't know exactly what's causing these problems, but I find that they happen in areas where populations of survivors are increased or whenever you reach another player's network bubble. There's 3 different types of these lag bubbles. Ones where you drop to 1 to 5 frames and you can escape by running in the opposite direction of the lag bubble. Ones where you drop to 0 to 1 frames where you simply need to wait them out and it can take up to 10 minutes or longer to get out of them. And ones that simply grind your game down to 0 frames per second, forcing you to restart your client. Next, we have the memory leak crashes. At random times, you might experience a memory leak crash that can interrupt your gameplay. There's currently no way to avoid this from happening, so just keep that in mind at all times when you're playing. And then the big one that really hurts for me is crashing in the queue. And currently in DayZ, you can actually crash after rejoining a server after restart without closing down your client, or after you've been waiting in queue for as long, like can take 15-20 minutes. And it's one of the biggest turnoffs for many players who've been waiting patiently inside the queue only to crash out whenever it's your turn to join the server. Next, of course, is the damage delay during combat, which is still an issue in 0.61 and here in full force. Most experienced DayZ players know about this and attempt to play around it, but the major problem with the combat desync is it sets the skill ceiling extremely low. So if you have a player that has the slowest reaction time in the world, they will get enough shots on you to kill trade, and there's nothing that you can do about it. No matter how accurate you are, no matter if you ambush the player or not, there is enough time to get yourself killed, and that's what's been causing a lot of PvP players to move away from this game. The last issue I'm going to be talking about in this video is the no face texture. Surprisingly, a cosmetic bug can have an impact on this game dramatically, and at random times your character will lose their face texture, showing up as a black void in space. And this void can be seen at all distances, giving up your position to anybody with an optic. You'll just see a black dot far off in the distance hiding in a tree or in cover, and there's nothing that you can do to stop that from showing. You can try to get a balaclava or a face mask to minimize the amount of void space, but that still isn't a complete solution to the problem. Now, there are a lot of other bugs that are still in the game that need attention at some point, but they're not as game-breaking as the issues I've listed above. And 4 of the 5 listed issues are new problems because of 0.61 stable branch, not experimental, stable branch. Now, knowing all the current issues of the 5 major problems that are currently causing DayZ players some stress, let me run you through a very real scenario that can happen during gameplay, and variations of this happen to us all the time. Let's say a player that hasn't checked out DayZ in a while wants to jump in on the action with their friends, so they choose a server and they get started. Their squad is up at the Northwest Airfield, and our player is actually spawning on the coast because they haven't played in a while and they have no character. That player runs through Delina and gets killed by somebody camping a police station, setting them back about 15 minutes. It sucks, but it's just DayZ and it happens. People are going to be dicks. The player gets a brand new spawn close to Gorka and he starts to run up to meet the squad. When they finally all meet up with each other, one of the squad members unfortunately crashes, forcing them to wait for their friend to return to the game because of a 10-man queue. After nearly an hour of a few setbacks and some crashes, they are all finally set to leave Gorka and head inland. Sadly, most of the players at this point have a no texture glitch and are easily visible to everybody, so stealth is not an option anymore. They head to Novi, loot the police station and some buildings, and start heading towards Starry because they hear some gunshots, and of course they inevitably get into some combat. Our new player hits a terrible lag bubble while crossing an open field, and unfortunately their squad is forced to leave them behind and continue fighting. The player is now forced with a decision. Do I wait this out in an open field towards Starry and potentially get shot in the face by an enemy player because I'm standing completely still, or do I Alt F4 and risk getting into a queue? The decision here would be to Alt F4 because you don't want to risk your character dying because of a lag bubble glitch freezing your character in an open field. But unfortunately, since Gorka, the queue has now risen to 15, and by the time the player finally gets back into the game, his squad was killed and he's all alone. His friends are back on the coast, he's in an open field, and their play session is over. Now, this sounds like a worst case scenario, but actually, this happens to Markstrom and I almost every single Wednesday when we play DayZ together on DayZ Underground EU, and people who watch my broadcast can confirm this. So scenarios like this is why so many people are getting frustrated with DayZ at the moment, and bugs and issues that dedicated DayZ players like myself have to deal with on a daily basis. So what is the solution? Currently, from a development side, all we know is 0.63 will be the saving grace for DayZ, but when can we expect such a patch to be released? There's currently no word on when 0.62 is going to be reaching experimental branch. There was supposed to be a playable version at PAX, but that didn't happen. But what we can do is take a look at previous patch times and what they entailed. And 0.59, 0.60, and just very close 0.61 all had 5 to 6 month development times, including experimental and stable branches. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to be seeing 0.62 on experimental branch sometime in the next 8 weeks. But if that does not happen, that will push everything significantly back, and we definitely won't be seeing a beta stable patch until early 2018. So this leaves the DayZ community with really only one solution: waiting and being patient, and trying not to get more demotivated than we already are about the current state of the game. I want to see some hustle on the graphic fidelity patch. I think the 0.62 patch, with what it's trying to do, and because the solutions to these core gameplay problems have already been confirmed to be not fixed in 0.62, because not much of the development team is currently working on that experimental patch, the vast majority of people are already working on beta, that just means that we're going to have some pretty forests and some new map changes for 0.62, and that's basically it. They might try to sneak in some new items like they did with the Coyote, the Alice pack, and the BDU pants, but that shouldn't be difficult. that's not something that to be that overly excited about. It's textures and clothing, not core gameplay fixes. I would love to see 0.62 reach experimental testing before the end of April. Let's get this testing phase going for a patch that doesn't have solutions to the core gameplay problems. DayZ 0.61 is going absolutely nowhere, and given what Brian has already told us time and time again, the majority of the team is working on beta phase. These bugs won't get resolved, so let's just try to push to 0.63 as fast as possible. In a perfect world, 0.63 by midsummer experimental would be ideal, and if we could see that, I would gain a little bit of faith back into this development cycle for the game, which will give the developers some credibility and earn some respect from the community that cares so deeply about the game, because 5 to 6 months per patch is just far too long. You can't actually finish the damn game with that development speed. You just can't. It's going to take years and years and years and years. They need to start speeding things up. And that's going to get people motivated and excited again. And when people see new content, people see an increased development cycle, that's going to start bringing people back to the game. And until then, if these are just very long, slow patches with not much new, no core gameplay fixes, people will just continually leave this game, and eventually DayZ will be gone until modding is enabled, and hopefully the modders will actually breathe some life back into this game. Well, that was a mouthful. Thank you guys for sticking with me to this point, and not only in this video, but sticking with me on the live streams, sticking with me on the YouTube channel, the daily DayZ content, the PvP, the encounters, and the fun that we can actually still get from this game despite all of the problems that we experience, despite all the flack that's being thrown at the developers' faces, including some in this video. I'm going to concede that. I mean, it's hard for somebody who plays this game on a daily basis to not get frustrated, but the facts are facts, and the development is too slow, there's too many problems, things need to ramp up. And I want to thank you guys for listening to my take on some of the issues with the game, and I want to be hopeful about the future. So here's the DayZ's development. Let's see this game completed. Let's see this game get to the point where we all wanted it to be back in 2012. And hopefully down the road, we'll be playing the DayZ that was meant to be played from the get-go. And the whole point of creating a standalone DayZ finally come to a full circle conclusion. Again, thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you have to say in the comment section below, and share this video around if you agree or disagree with some of my points that I've made. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll see you guys during the daily live streams every single morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and Sundays at noon.